Hey everybody, and welcome to WrestleLine. Little self show today, just from me, John Scott, just for a Survivor Series build up. But the gimmick with today is literally I'm doing this podcast very mobile because I'm walking as I'm doing it. So I am outside, so I do apologise for any audio interference, or if it's not quite as good quality as I normally do. That's the reason why. But I'm sure if it's that much of a problem, just don't go any further, I guess. But if you do want to stick around and you're okay with the audio, which I hope you are, then yeah, I'm just going to literally be talking about Survivor Series this Sunday, and not going to go through the whole card. I'm not doing like a full preview, but I just wanted to talk about the two big changes that have happened within the last 7 days, really, with the WWE. So yeah, if I sound a little bit out of breath or I'm pausing sometimes, it's literally going to be because maybe I'm crossing roads or I'm walking too fast and I'm a little bit out of breath. So I'll try to hopefully keep it consistent. But anyway, obviously in the last 7 days we've realised that two of the sort of big main event matches have been changed, and I had a lot of emails from you guys about what me and myself, Matt, thought about the changes. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to have Matt on the show this week. We haven't really had many times. I'm hopefully going to get him on for a review. We might sort something out by Tuesday on that, so definitely come back to us. We'll do a review, even if I'm doing it alone. I'll definitely do a review of the show. But yeah, obviously originally the plans: Becky Lynch versus Charlotte, SmackDown champion against the Raw, and AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar, a complete rematch from last year, exactly the same spot, is also been changed. And so now we have the updated, newly crowned Daniel Bryan with a slight heel turn. Want to give a shout out to Jimbo, Wrestler Squad number 9. Anyone that doesn't believe Jimbo, go back on some previous episodes, because he called this one. And I think myself and Matt were probably sort of laughing about it a bit and thinking there's probably no chance. But there you go. Who are we to say anymore? Jimbo, I don't know how you got that inkling, but he's going to let me know. He's actually working on an email to tell me why he come up with that theory. So I'm kind of looking forward to hearing it, because he believes his theory will be the next thing he's predicted. So that's going to be interesting. But in any case, the other match now, obviously Becky's been injured, concussion and whatever they're talking about. So now they've thrown Charlotte in, which I am very, very surprised about, because I just thought maybe they would go with, maybe just push Ronda and Nia for this Survivor Series match and do that one now. But they want to keep with SmackDown versus Raw. But even still, I am quite surprised they have booked Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey, because this, for me, and you guys know if you listen to the podcast enough, this is the match I've been saying will headline WrestleMania next year. Now I'm really, really shocked that they've put this on now, and I'm hoping that, I'm not saying Becky Lynch and Ronda couldn't do it, but I don't know. I do feel like with Becky, it's an unknown thing. Like, it's good at the moment. It's definitely got her, she's very edgy. She's got the fans with her. But you know as well as I do, guys, by the time you get to WrestleMania, sometimes that steam's gone. And you've seen it with a lot of talent. You've seen it even with Braun Strowman. So that's a little bit of a concern of mine. Have they basically, pulled out everything way too soon? And the same could be said for me, for Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. This is another match that I actually penciled in for a Brock Lesnar credible opponent. Now they've actually got both titles. Who would ever think about it, that these guys would have the titles at this point of the year if you was to go back at, say, Royal Rumble? Absolutely incredible. So yeah, my feelings are about these two matches is that, and I want people to make sure they understand what I'm saying here, because I know people will jump on the emails and give me a lot of heat. So just understand why I'm saying this is that, in my opinion, the tweak of both those matches, for me, on paper, they are bigger matches. And before you guys go nuts, let me just make sure you understand where I'm coming from here, because I'm not saying, under no circumstances, I'm not saying that Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey couldn't have been a 5-star match. I'm also not saying that AJ Styles versus Brock couldn't have been a 5-star match. They both could have been, no doubt about it. But I'm talking about legit matches before they happen, like with the sort of what is the bigger match on paper. For me, the matches that they've tweaked to, Charlotte Flair, who WWE they have really, regardless of her small losses against Carmella, which I think we all knew was a bit of a joke, I think when it comes down to the nut and crack of it, like WWE, they hold Charlotte up in very, very high stead. And I think that her versus Ronda Rousey, who is also very, very well protected, you'd say both of them are quite kind of Triple H's pet projects in many ways. To have these two facing each other is, for me, a much bigger match on paper. Now, Becky Lynch does have the credibility, but the only difference to that would be the fact that with Becky, she has only literally just started to get this momentum. So that's not to say they couldn't have delivered as good as match, or even maybe better. That's just me saying, from where we're at now, when you look at both females, their credibility in WWE, these two, along with Ronda's UFC background, this is the biggest match you can get in the women's division, in my opinion. Now, with the other match, the reason, and also I want to say as well, much like Becky versus Ronda would have been a first time, Charlotte versus Ronda's the first time, but this is why I'm also going with the likes of Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, first time ever, as for me a more exciting match than the rematch from last year. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a great match, but anybody who knows, when you have one great match, especially when it's 1 year later, people just expect the absolute best again, and sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. I mean, you can go back on any kind of matches, even Taker and Shawn Michaels, two of the greats, and they even found it difficult. So that's a hard thing to pull. But I think for me, what makes this interesting is the fact that, I remember watching Daniel Bryan on Total Divas, and I don't know who he was helping out, but he was helping some wrestler out, and he was talking about coming up with a particular moveset just to deal with Brock Lesnar. So that has definitely been in his mind for a long time, and I know that Brock and Paul Heyman have always spoken about Daniel Bryan. So for me, this is like, it's almost, in a weird kind of way, this is almost 4 years in the making, because everybody will remember WrestleMania 30, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker's streak. Daniel Bryan defeated Triple H, and then went on to beat Batista and Randy Orton in a triple threat match. And he headlined WrestleMania. I mean, he was the focal point along with Brock, and I think it was destined for those two to meet. Unfortunately, Daniel Bryan got injured, and I think that match was going to happen at SummerSlam. That never happened, and you were going to get this ultimate underdog story continue against Brock Lesnar. But now, of course, 4 years later, a lot's changed, and Brock has been the golden goose for a long time now. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, rather than thinking about who Brock should give this to next, I think it's kind of making me think, like, hang on a minute, all these years, really, is it just that I've been waiting for someone to take it, like a Roman or a Braun or whoever else, but actually Brock Lesnar is actually the guy. And I've got to be honest, at this point, you'd be hard pressed to say he's not, because whether you like him or hate him or whatever it is, he's the cash cow at the moment. He is the one that WWE are giving all the credibility to, and it's, for me, it's not a bad thing, because for a change, Brock does put some real legitimacy on that title. It's just an odd way of the way they've been doing it, because we're always waiting for someone to take it. But I think now that that's sort of out of the equation, I think that it becomes a lot more a different perspective of it, if you will. So for me, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan is a much more interesting and intriguing bout, for me anyway. I mean, listen, that's just my opinion. I don't know what other people think. People, even Matt may really, I'm sure Matt may have thought maybe AJ was a better opponent again. I'm pretty sure he would have been on the lines with Becky, but I'm just talking about before it actually happens, how big a match could be. And I think these two matches on paper are just the two bigger matches than what they were, and it's basically because of the history, and it is the first time. So I am sort of slightly worried about WrestleMania next year, because I'm thinking to myself, there's two matches there that could have actually headlined WrestleMania, and they're being thrown on at Survivor Series. There you go, guys. The audio's going to get slightly interfered because it's a busy road I'm next to at the moment. Here in sunny old England, it's a bit cold actually, to say the least, but it is sunny. Without dribbling on here, I think, I know you guys have asked my opinion on it, and I just think these two matches are bigger. I think they are more. It's made me more interested in the pay-per-view than, the only thing I really dislike is the fact that, much like last year, when we thought it was being promoted as Jinder Mahal versus Brock, which I was actually quite interested to see just because of the physicality of it. And at the time, Jinder was, much like I talked about that steam earlier, Jinder had that steam, and then look where it is now. Only this week, this is the crazy thing, only this week, Brock Lesnar shows up, and who's the guy to come out and give him a mouthful to get his arse handed to him, basically? None other than Jinder Mahal. And I just thought, words cannot express my discontent for that sort of, I know that we have a lot of emails sometimes, and they say, "Oh, have WWE done this deliberately?" We had emails about it just for things like about the WWE Women's Evolution pay-per-view. And at the time, I think me and Matt were like, "No, that's just irony, that's just how it happens sometimes." But I think for things like this, and maybe looking back at Evolution, what took place after, I might have, to be honest with you, I'm probably more on those people's side. But the unbelievable timing that this time last year Jinder was, or had just lost his belt up against the likes of AJ Styles, for him now to come out and basically just throw himself to be jobbed completely, not even in a match, just go out, get a fool made out of you on Raw, this same time it was last year. That, to me, that is WWE tipping the hat to something, and it's certainly not to Jinder Mahal. That poor guy, I've got to say, when he come back, I wasn't a huge believer at first, the modern day Maharaj and all this nonsense, but he made a believer of me, and I thought they were really going somewhere with it. To see where this guy is at now is worrying. It's worrying for a lot of guys. It's worrying for the next guys that have been sort of penciled in as the next guys. People like Seth Rollins, Elias, Finn Balor, maybe. I don't know if that's still really on the cards. But yeah, Drew McIntyre's a big one, because you can push Drew to the stars, but it means nothing if they're